So you catch yourself again reacting in a way that you absolutely hate. And sometimes, isn't this true? Your first thought is, why am I like this? Maybe it's anger and it spills out and burns other people again. Maybe it's shutting down and you feel isolated and cut off and lonely again, even in your own home, even in the context of your closest relationships. Maybe it's anxiety that's taking over your body or taking over your mind. It's keeping you from enjoying life as it really is through your five senses around you again. And after it happens, you're not just frustrated, but you're actually questioning yourself, like your own person. But here's what I want to challenge you with today. The problem isn't you. It's what you've been practicing up till now. Now, this is going to be news that sets so many free today. Because this is where a lot of Christians, people of faith, people who want to live meaningful and purposeful lives get stuck. You see the pattern clearly. I keep snapping at my spouse. I overthink everything for days. I feel anxious when nothing's really wrong, or I shut down, I pull away the moment conflict comes up. You see it every time, and you've tried to change it. Sometimes you've prayed about it, or you've told yourself, hey, I'm going to do better next time. You've tried just to white knuckle it and control it, but the same thing keeps happening. And so the conclusion becomes, well, this is who I am. And that's where it gets really heavy. Because now it's not just a behavior problem, it's an identity problem. Now you're not just someone who struggles, but someone who is just fundamentally broken. And once that belief settles in deep enough, you don't just feel stuck, you end up living stuck. But I want to offer you something today that's going to be so freeing. It might feel simple, but it changes everything when it actually lands. Listen, your patterns are not proof of who you are. They're just evidence of what you've learned. And if that's true, well, guess what? Then you're not trapped, although you have been trained. But here's the good news. Anything learned can be unlearned. Anything that has shaped us can actually be reshaped. That's the journey of transformation. And so I want to walk you through three pieces of really good news about those patterns. These aren't quick fixes, but this is a different way to understand what's actually happening in you. Okay, let's get in. The first thing I want you to recognize is that patterns are not your personhood. Your patterns are not who you are. Now, I know they feel personal. I know they get in the way of relationships. They get in the way of goals. They get in the way of very personal things. And I know they feel automatic, like reactions that are just knee-jerk and immediate. And I know that sometimes, because I've lived it too, they feel like who you are. But listen very clearly. They are not. Your patterns, my patterns, our patterns are responses that have been repeated enough times that your brain and your body now run that play without even asking you. They become automatic, they become immediate, they become spontaneous reactions. So that moment where you snap, that shutdown in conflict, that anxious spiral, those aren't who you are, although sometimes we can mistakenly begin to think that and even identify ourselves with those kinds of patterns. They're not your identity. They're just your system doing what it's practiced for so long. And your system, listen to me, has learned those responses for a reason. All of our patterns at some point helped us. All of the responses that we have at some point were productive. I do a lot of work with survivors of trauma. And what we see in post-traumatic stress disorder, where the nervous system is still reactive, or where memories still take over our bodies and our brains, or where we still interpret things as dangerous, even though there is no danger immediate and present, like there was, all of those are responses that have been trained that were actually, at one point, really, really helpful. If we grew up in a context where there was real danger, then our ability to detect it was a really good thing. Even our nervous system going into fight or flight or fawn or freeze or flop, those are all different trauma responses, those were really helpful and really productive. Those were a way to keep us safe and keep us healthy and help us survive at one point. But once you remove the danger, once you remove the real threat, those very helpful at one point responses become unhelpful. They can become unhealthy. And you may not have lived through abuse or various types of abuse, but here's what I want you to know, that your responses to that are less than ideal, that are unhelpful and unhealthy, they are conditioned responses to something that happened in your past or some kind of environment that was true in your past. And in the same way, at some point, they helped you. They helped you stay safe or stay connected or avoid pain or keep the peace. But here's the problem, and I've already alluded to it. What may have been helpful at one point can be hurtful to you, to your relationships, to your goals, to the places where you want to go now. So here's what we want to do. Instead of asking, why am I like this, which is identity-based, which is a box that keeps us stuck, a better question that I want you to ask is, when and why did I learn this? When did I learn this and why? In other words, what was this a response to? Because that question, listen, it's not going to excuse the behavior. You might still have to repair after certain ruptures when you got mad or overreacted or didn't really harness those hard emotions in the most constructive way. Okay, they don't excuse the behavior, but it does remove the shame. Because remember, guilt is, oh, I did something wrong. Shame is, I am something wrong. So we're not excusing the behavior, but we are removing the shame. And listen, when shame goes down, awareness, agency, the ability to take back God-given control over various areas in our lives goes up. And that awareness and that agency is where things really begin to change. So patterns are not your personhood. But here's the second thing that I want you to know. Patterns are learned, which means that they can be unlearned. Now, this is where a lot of people lose hope. They think, again, I've been this way for years. This is just how I'm wired. There's no changing at this point, which honestly, a lot of times is a confession of a willingness. I don't want to change. It doesn't hurt bad enough that I really am going to put in the effort and the intention to change. Let me just plant the seed to anyone listening right now. You are capable of change because of the tools that your creator has given you. You are literally built. Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to learn new things. You are literally built to flourish in a relational context, to have health in your body, to have the mind of Christ, it says in Scripture, a mind that thinks clearly, that has ability to judge and discern all kinds of things, not just threat and safety and danger. But you're built that way. But another part of the brain is that it's built for automaticity and it's built for efficiency. So what happens is our brains will default to what it is that we've practiced the most. So if you've practiced reacting quickly or avoiding discomfort or overanalyzing everything or people policing to stay safe, then of course, that's what shows up automatically. Your brain doesn't have to think about what it's thinking or what it's doing. It just goes into reaction mode. It's like when you're driving from point A to point B and you've done it 100 times, your brain doesn't even think about it. In fact, you're thinking about the laundry or that conversation that you have, or, oh man, I need to order that thing for work or for the birthday party. And before long, you're home and you're like, whoa, I wasn't even thinking. How did I get here? Your brain was built for automaticity and efficiency. And so it's using the least amount of caloric energy as possible. And the same is true in our emotional responses. So listen, what it defaults to has been learned because it's been repeated over time. But just like it's been learned, this is so important, it can be unlearned. You're not broken. You've just practiced one thing so much that it's become automatic. Practice can change. And that leads us to the third thing I want us to see today. Patterns are remade They're rebuilt, they're rewired, they're reconfigured, repatterned. One moment, one interaction, one decision at a time. Now, this is where people either get discouraged or finally feel hope. And I want you to feel the hope, okay? Because we can get discouraged when we think, oh, change has to be big. It has to be this dramatic shift, right? I'm just going to wake up one day and be different. But you know that's not how it works. That's not how it works with your physical health. That's not how it works with building a solid relationship, romantic or friendship, or with your kids. It's work over time. In fact, just about anything that's worth it takes work and takes time. The same is true with our emotional health and our emotional wiring. But here's the hope is that you have opportunities every single day to move the needle forward. You don't have to stay stuck. See, change happens in those tiny moments where you do something different. It looks like pausing instead of just reacting immediately. I call this taking a breath. It happens when you notice what you're feeling instead of pushing it away, like maybe you've practiced for so long. It happens when you say one honest idea or sentence instead of immediately pulling away and shutting down. It happens when you choose to stay present, grounded through your five senses when you actually are used to escaping. These are small moments, but repeated over time, they become new patterns. The repetition creates a new reality. This is how change happens. This is how transformation happens. Not through white knuckling it, not through just pressuring even harder, but through practice over time. So here's what I want you to take with you today. The next time you notice a pattern show up, and I know you will, for you and for me, listen, don't rush to fix it. Rather, I want you to ask, what is this trying to do for me? We're not trying to justify it, but we do want to understand it. We want to slow down the moment so that we can figure out what was the function of this that is now not so functional so that we can recondition it. In fact, this is exactly why I created my emotional freedom framework to help people who are living sincere, faith-filled, high-performing lives. They want to live on purpose with deep meaning, but they just feel stuck in these emotional patterns. This is what breaks you free. Emotional freedom is the freedom to feel without being driven by those feelings. And that's exactly what we implement in my coaching experience. In fact, let's jump on a call and figure out exactly how this will work for you because it's tailored to your story. It's tailored to your experiences, even though they're tools that God has given all of us to utilize and leverage for long-term emotional health. But for now, just remember this. You are not your patterns. You're the one who can begin to reshape them. And that process doesn't start with just more pressure. It starts with understanding, slowing down the moment, eliminating shame, and one decision, one moment, one interaction at a time, reconditioning your responses and rewriting your story. God bless you. You got this, friend. Can't wait to see you soon.